Mr. Jaitley, appreciate you joining us here on CNBC TV 18. The obvious thing would be for me to get into this discussion over the fake encounter with facts as far as the growth statistics go. But I don't want to do that because I don't want to dwell on the past. I want to talk about the future. And I want you to address what the economic agenda of the BJP or the NDA is going to be as we head towards the general elections in 2014. Let me start by asking you particularly as far as your position on FDI is concerned, because I'm a bit confused as to where the BJP stands on issues related to FDI. When it comes to insurance, you seem to be pulling back. When it comes to retail, there seems to be a blanket no. When it comes to defense, there's an ambivalence on which side you're going to take. What is the BJP's position as far as FDI is concerned?
Be very clear. There are various infrastructure areas. We are certainly not opposed to FDI in those areas. On defense, there is a certain amount of headspace which is required.
Yeah.
In fact, the 26% opening was done when the NDA was in power. Today, as it is, we are buying most of our equipment either from foreign companies or foreign governments. So if you have an Indian company established in India with an FDI, I don't think it's a very serious issue as far as we are concerned. Now, as far as retail is concerned, we've gone through this debate extensively. We have serious reservations because India at the moment is not prepared for it. That was our view which we expressed. The government, notwithstanding, went ahead and hasn't been able to achieve much in the process. As far as insurance is concerned, I think we are in discussion with the government.
Has there been a change of heart on insurance? Because this was something that the BJP piloted.
Yes. At the time when we piloted, we had originally suggested 49%.
Yes.
We couldn't do 49% because at that time Dr. Manmohan Singh and Mr. Pranab Mukherjee objected to 49% and on their insistence. Well, it's not a tit for that. In fact, the finance minister, Mrs. Sushma Swaraj and myself and Mr. Yashwant Sinha, we've had a series of meetings and let's see what happens. Because the issue, I would say, is still not closed at the moment. Various suggestions have been made and I think the issue is still open for discussion.
The finance minister said that he had a series of meetings with the leaders of the opposition, including you and Mrs. Swaraj, and he was hopeful that in the winter session of Parliament, the insurance bill will be taken up, and perhaps there could be a breakthrough even as far as the FDI cap is concerned.
If it is 26%, then it won't be taken up because that's the status quo.
Absolutely.
And on 26%, let me tell you, when Mr. Yashwant Sinha headed the standing committee, he still heads it, and this suggestion of 49% was made. Each and every Congress member of the standing committee opposed 49%. They probably thought this 49% was a Yashwant Sinha proposal. And therefore, alternative ideas were also discussed, FDI plus FII and so on. And then the standing committee has come out with a unanimous report. Now to overrule that report, you need larger discussions and a consensus, and you have to develop a political environment for it.
So should industry expect a breakthrough? Will the BJP oppose or continue to oppose 49%, or is the BJP...
I won't answer that question. Let the discussions be complete and I think we'll be able to come to a concrete position thereafter.
But the door is not closed on 49%.
Well, I would say the discussions are on and therefore if something comes out of the discussion, so be it.
Okay, I want to now talk to you about retail, and you said the government finally decided to open it up. There was debates in Parliament and so on and so forth. But the reason why foreign investors are not investing in multi-brand retail at this point in time is because there is a question mark. Because publicly, several BJP leaders have stated that if we come to power, we will overturn the decision. This has never happened. We've never seen major reforms.
I'm aware of it. Well, I won't go into that question of what happens if we come into power, what happens about the policy. I won't get into that question at the moment. But at the time when this issue was discussed with the government and in Parliament, I myself had led the debate in one of the houses of the Parliament, and I believe we had given very cogent reasons why India today is not ready for this investment.
But it's the law today.
Well, it's the policy of the government.
Yeah,
it's the policy of the government.
And it's been passed by both
houses. Well, it's the policy of the government. If the government presently wants to implement it, let it go ahead. But then it has to create an environment. I think the lesson for this is, economic reforms are an art of the possible. You have to carry a large part of the public opinion in the country along with it. You have 40 million trade establishments in this country. People who have reasonable apprehensions about this. There are also apprehensions as it happened elsewhere in the world, that even manufacturing jobs suffered because you haven't done sufficient manufacturing reform. That was one of the objections which I had made.
But those apprehensions have been put on the table. As I said, it's government policy, it's the law. If the BJP were to come to power, it's a relevant question. Will you decide to overturn this decision?
When we come to power, what decision we take, we'll take at that stage. I don't announce that decision at the moment. But let me tell you, when they got that policy ratified in Parliament, this was courtesy the Samajwadi Party and the BSP, which had taken a contrarian position outside, and then when the voting started, so they abstained on some pretext or the other.
The BJP changed its position on retail as well. You were the one who first piloted the very idea and the concept of FDI in retail.
I must tell you, the BJP always had serious reservations.
No, it was part of your manifesto.
No, it was not part of our manifesto.
It was removed later, but it was part of your manifesto.
It was at one stage mentioned in an NDA agenda, which was subsequently altered. It's never been a part of the BJP manifesto. The BJP, our supporting constituency, has serious reservations about it even today.
But you're not going as far as to say that if the BJP or the NDA were to to power, you will not overturn this decision.
Economic policy is not an issue on which you make hypothetical statement as to what you would do 2 years ago.
No, but what is your position on it, sir?
My position on it is very clear. We are opposed to FDI in retail.
You are opposed to FDI in retail. I now want to talk to you about FDI in defense, because you said that, there is that 26% limit. The government has now said that it can be enhanced. The Cabinet Committee on Security can take a call on that based on the state-of-the-art technology. However, those guidelines are finally going to be defined. What is the NDA and the BJP's position as far as FDI in defense?
FDI in defense, as I mentioned, we are flexible. 26% FDI in defense was brought by the NDA government when we were in power. And at that stage also there was opposition from some of the people. And we had elaborately explained that today we are buying our defense equipment from companies which are 100% foreign. We are buying it from companies owned by foreign governments. And therefore, if you have Indian companies established in India with a large Indian equity and a foreign holding therein, this is much better than the situation today. There is a large financial outgo which goes out because of the purchases from outside. So we had taken this initiative of 26%. As far as FDI in defense is concerned, we are reasonably flexible about it.
All right. Let me now talk to you as far as the GST is concerned, because the Congress believes that Narendra Modi single-handedly derailed the GST. Jairam Ramesh, in an interview to me a couple of days ago, has said that it was the other Modi, i.e. Narendra Modi, that single-handedly derailed the GST. Do you take responsibility, does the BJP take responsibility for the fact that the most ambitious tax reform of this country has been held back on account of issues with one particular individual?
Let us be very clear. Jairam's quibs apart, this is not a BJP versus Congress issue. Within the political party structures, it states governed by the same party which may have two different views. For instance, when some of the BJP states were strongly in favor, and one said Punjab was strongly in favor of it. It was Madhya Pradesh which had led the opposition to it. It was not Gujarat which had led the opposition. Therefore, everything being put in the Narendra Modi basket is a favorite Congress ploy. So Madhya Pradesh is one state which had consistently opposed it. Tamil Nadu had opposed it at one stage. Bihar was in support of it. Therefore, even within the same structure, you could have Congress governments in some states. The consuming states had one particular view. The less consuming states had another particular view about it. Now, the right thing to do at that stage was, and the earlier finance minister, Mr. Mukherjee, and we discussed it at length, and therefore this has to be conveyed to the states and the centre will deal with them on a fair basis. Pranab Babu used to say, well, this is cooperative federalism, and therefore the centre and the states have to cooperate. Now, there are issues both economic and other issues relating to discrimination of the states, where some states have an apprehension about the centre. You can't have a consensus on economic policy or even on a good reform. I personally would be supportive of the GST. I have no hesitation in saying so. Unless you are able to drill confidence in the minds of the states, to say that the centre is going to be very fair to you, even in various allocations when the decisions have to be taken. I'm afraid the kind of hostile position the centre has taken with regard to certain states, they have not been able to do.
But why would you say that? Because the panel, the empowered panel on GST was headed by a member of the BJP, by Mr. Sushil Modi. Mr. Sushil Modi was very hopeful at one point in time that the GST bill would actually go through Parliament.
I also hope it will get through. But at the same time, to convince a large number of states. The number of states which are opposed to it is
which are actually the BJP states.
No, it's not necessarily the BJP states. There are other states also which had serious reservations about it. And the number of states which have reservations and which have been raising questions have been increasing. Therefore, the centre has to negotiate with those states and bring them on board, because some of those states have serious issues about this whole issue.
So is there any possibility that we could see a breakthrough on the GST before the tenure of this government?
Well, I don't know whether this government is going to attempt a consensus or not, but if this government were to send the right signals to the states and create an environment of consultation with the states, it would be possible. If they take an environment of hostility as far as states are concerned and they are apprehensive about discrimination, I'm afraid it will be a slow process.
The Prime Minister himself has said that he's not hopeful of the GST being implemented before the term of the UPA runs out. Will the GST be top of the economic agenda as far as the BJP and the NDA is concerned?
I see merit in the GST proposal, and therefore for any government, this government or the other government, to try and create a consensus on this and convince the states of the bona fides of the centre would be